Good morning, class. This is Chris, and I'm going to be talking about the writing style in the Epic of Gilgamesh. So, we all know that the Epic of Gilgamesh is what? An epic, of course. So, that's what mainly the writing style is, which an epic is, of course, a long poem that tells a story. So, I'm going to tell you guys about. I'm going to read to you the first reading response that I did for the epic, and it goes a little something like this. The Epic of Gilgamesh is very interesting to me. Kind of disturbing, but interesting as well. I can honestly say that I've never read a story like this before. The way that it is organized and presented is very difficult for me to understand what is mainly going on. There was a lot of repetition throughout the story though, so that makes it somewhat easier to comprehend. I think that the repetition is put in for readers to know that what is happening is important to the overall story. As of where we are now in the novel, I like the story and what it is saying. One gripe I do have with it though is how it is presented. I do not like the stanza style of writing, even though this is a poem. I would prefer it and think the story would be easier to read if it were shown in regular paragraph form that is commonplace now. I guess the stanza format gives it an authentic style that would have been the original way the story was written and meant to be read. If this is the case, then I completely understand. I look forward to reading the rest of the novel. Now, I called it a novel, and that was wrong. It's an epic. I shouldn't have called it a novel, but that's what I did, so, but yeah, those were my first impressions about it, and to be honest, I really didn't. You guys saw what I read, what I wrote. I really didn't like it that much. I found it very confusing. I didn't really know what an epic was before that, but later on I did learn, and I'm gonna read you guys the second reader response that I did right now. Here's 4. I got a 4 on it. It was called Tears of a God, Mosaics 1. Alright, so here's how it goes. From what I have read so far, I can tell why the Epic of Gilgamesh is a very prestigious writing that would be used for this course. Besides being one of the first examples of writing and storytelling, it is a very intriguing work of literature. As I wrote in my first response on this novel, I called it a novel again, that's bad. I do not like the style that it is written in, but I do like the story more now that I have read more of it. Then later on I said that another aspect of the story that I enjoyed was in Tablet 8, the funeral of Enkidu. I liked how Gilgamesh put out the good so that Enkidu could go into the netherworld and become good with the gods. This reminded me of what happens in some superhero stories that are epics. When one of the main characters, who would be considered a sidekick like Enkidu, dies, some of the other characters will put things into their graves that meant a lot to them so that they can have them in the other world. This is also seen in real life. The Epic of Gilgamesh is a pretty interesting novel. No, it's an epic. I'm glad to have read it. Alright, so you guys just got to see my second reader response for Gilgamesh. This is the second and last one that we had to do, and you guys could see that I wasn't really feeling the style of it that much. I wasn't really feeling the epic, the poetry, and stuff like that, but I was starting to understand it more, and I thought that it was a pretty good book, and I still do think that it was. I even wrote about it for my midterm essay. I wrote about Gilgamesh and the quest for immortality and stuff like that. So I did like it. I ended up liking it. I do like it now. And one other thing that I wanted to talk about was like epics. I did a little bit of research, and some of the ones that kind of influenced Gilgamesh is really like the first epic. But some of the other ones that came later were like the Iliad or the Odyssey that Homer did. And if you think about newer contemporary things like Star Wars or superhero movies like Batman, like The Dark Knight and stuff like that, or Superman, and all the TV shows and spin-offs and comic books that they have for those. If you think about those, I mean, those could be considered epics too. So, I mean, epics are pretty good, and I mean, I can see why Gilgamesh, why we did that for this class, because it's very interesting. It's interesting work of art. No other thing that we read in this class was an epic, so it is pretty good, and I did like it. Thank you for watching.